BizMap Ptbo, Peterborough's business vlog. Each episode creates a business map to your success. We will introduce you to people and places in our city who will help you make it happen, showcasing why Ptbo is the place to live, play, and prosper. Welcome to this episode of BizMap Ptbo. In this episode, we're going to be talking about should you rent, buy, or build your commercial space. Let's talk to a number of local specialists who can help you make your decision.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul Bennett from Ashburnham Realty. Sofie has asked me to come talk here tonight about some commercial real estate aspects. One of my true passions is working with commercial businesses and helping them find their true the match for them in terms of what their space could be like, and that sometimes can be renting, sometimes can be buying. One of the key things that you always want to talk about is when to jump into a space. It's obviously a huge commitment for people, especially now with the huge impact of entrepreneurship in our community. Some people feel that one of the first things they need to do is to actually jump into a commercial space, and that is 100% the last thing you need to do. There's so many different options that you can do from a home-based business, or there's great enterprise work centers in Peterborough. PED and GPIC right now are offering great services that can help you get your business off the ground. You'd be shocked the number of times that I have people come to me with a business plan on a napkin or something, and they feel like the first thing they need to do is get a commercial space. And once again, that is not your first person you're going to talk to. You need to get a solid business plan in place. Whether you're starting or growing your business, you don't want to just jump into a new commitment that is sometimes a 5 or 10 or 15-year lease that can be a big deal if you're not ready for that step. So obviously one of the first steps is figuring out when you're ready for that step to either go into your first space or grow into another space. And quite often some of those organizations in Peterborough can help you get through that, and then you can either decide to make the jump in and try through an enterprise center, and then beyond that you can talk to someone like myself, or there's a lot of other great people in Peterborough who can help you find that perfect space based on the type of business that you are. And so one of the great big things that I sit down when I talk about with new businesses or expanding businesses is exactly what a commercial lease is. In general, you're going to find two types of leases, which is called a triple net lease. And in a triple net lease, you're paying a base rent, and then there's going to be some expenses on top of that. So you'll hear someone come talk to you about TMI and those types of things. Once again, to really read into that, you're going to have to sit down and talk to someone a bit more about that. But you'll also see a gross lease as well. That basically is a base rent plus your TMI. That is a bit more cost certainty for a business. It's something that we try and do a lot more of now, especially for smaller businesses, because it gives cost certainty on a cash flow basis from month to month. Another very important thing to think about when you're leasing is what the amount of money you're investing in the space. People always ask me the length of a lease or how long they want to do it. So quite often people will start at 1 year, and it doesn't make any sense. So I always try and talk from the tenant's perspective in this case. No matter what you're doing from a business, you're going to be investing a great deal of capital in terms of, obviously, money, cash, but also goodwill in terms of creating a location. You've got to make sure that when you're investing in that location that you're going to be there for a certain length of time. So you might invest $100,000, you might invest $500,000, but there's a lot of other things that you're investing in that location. So from a tenant perspective, as much as it's really scary, it's really smart to get a longer term lease in place. Usually 5 years is a good place to start, or if you're able to start with 3 and do an option for 2, that allows you that bit of a freedom to kind of get started and rolling, but you also protect your location where the money and time you've invested in the location, it allows it to almost defer itself over that 5-year period, and you can protect the business's future. More so probably from an expanding business perspective than a new business is whether people want to rent or buy. Peterborough is an amazing center right now, and real estate does seem to be doing very well, so people are more apt to seem to want to buy, but that's not always the best situation, and there's a lot of things, a few of which I'll touch on right now, of things that you need to think about prior to making that leap in, especially on the buy front. The first one obviously being is resources. Like, you need to have the money to buy the type of place you're looking at, and not only that, to renovate. Renovations can be costly. Another really important thing that I always talk to about some of the businesses about is the value of the money in your business. So depending on the type of business that you are, you might be smarter to invest the money in your business than you are to invest in real estate. Real estate over time has always kind of had its constant return. they say you're making 5 or 6% on appreciation on real estate. If you can spend that same money and invest it back in your business and allow your business to grow at a higher percentage, you're probably much smarter to invest that money in your business than you are in a building. So yeah, definitely in terms of commitment time you're looking at on the renting versus buying, you definitely want to make sure that the location, the type of building you're looking at, it's a long-term commitment that you're looking at. Quite often, whether you're a food service, an office, whatever the type of use you're using for your space, you're going to customize it and you're going to spend quite a bit of money on that. That's money that you might not get back out in a resale. Say you spent $100,000 customizing your office building, you may not get that same value out of the real estate sale because it's maybe wasted value to the next buyer. So it's really important that you look at the money you're investing as part of your business operating and not something necessarily that you're investing in the real estate asset unless it's over the long term, because you may not get it back in the short term. You don't want to make anything for a short-term play of any kind. If you're going to be in a location for 3 years, you don't want to play around with buying it, because you quite often work to almost tailor the property too much to your own business, and you might have a problem on the resale. It's one thing if you have other units in the building that you're looking at getting, but if you're tailoring it to what you're doing, it could be tough for resale and it could handcuff your business moving forward. So you want to make sure it's a long-term play, at least 7 years, if not 10 plus, and that's when you should look into the world of buying. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, at least something that I've said has resonated with someone today. A few things that I'd really like to drive home before I end this here now is Peterborough is such a great community, and there's so many great organizations out there now that can help a business either grow or start out. Make sure that you go, before you come see a guy like me or anyone else that has to do with any kind of commercial real estate, make sure you go to some of those organizations like Peterborough Economic Development or Community Futures or GPIC or those groups, and make sure that your business is on the right path, because they're there to help you get there. I can then, or someone like me can come in after the fact and just kind of accent and make sure that you can get to that next step. And I think it's really important that we as a community work together to make sure that we all, can grow and become a much better community.
So my name is Amy Simpson, and I own MicroAge here in Peterborough. And I was asked to come and talk today about how I bought a building to put my business in last year. MicroAge had been leasing for 33 years in one location. I came on the scene about 14 years ago. And I had always wanted to have my own building, but I literally couldn't afford it. So time passed and our business changed. That was one of the driving forces to allow me to buy a building, because many years ago we got out of the retail business and strictly focused on business clients. So we didn't need walk-in traffic, we did not need exposure where we were on Erskine. So I decided to take the plunge, and I found this great old building on Stewart Street. I believe it's 1876, which some people might go, "What are you doing? You're crazy," because it's so old. But the fact is, I walked in there with my husband, and I was instantly sold, because my saying was, if it stood this long, it's rock solid. It's going nowhere. So anyway, the building is beautiful. I did some renovations to it. I did spend a lot of money on renovations, and it was only on surface things. It wasn't even on anything structural. But I figure I'm going to be there for about 10 years, so it all kind of worked out into the plan. But I guess there was a few surprises during my little journey. The one thing was the down payment on the building. When you go look at commercial buildings, the downstroke is actually higher than it is in private business or personal business. Another thing is business mortgages are renewed on a yearly basis, because when you tie it to your business, they're going to look at your financials of your business and then determine your mortgage rate, which I also didn't realize. So these are things that you don't think of when you're in the throes of it. But moving the business after 33 years, I was pretty concerned. But as I said, our clientele, we mostly go to them. We do have a boardroom for meetings, but we could be anywhere. It's really for my staff and my techs and servers and other things, but mostly it doesn't matter where we're located. But now we're on Stewart Street, and I love that. The big thing too is that now I'm responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that building. So people shouldn't kid themselves thinking, oh, isn't that nice? I've already planned in 5 years I need a new roof, it's like 10 grand. And in this many years I need this, and it's another 10 grand. I have to factor this all in and be ready, because I don't have that kind of money laying around. I have to plan for that and make a budget, and so I'm ready. And the one thing I loved about leasing is I never had to worry about a thing. Just pick up the phone and they would just look after it. That's the benefit of leasing. Focus on your business and let them handle it. However, I've got all these good people in place, a furnace guy, a this guy, a whatever guy, a plow guy. It's all in place, and that's fine as long as you budget properly for all those additional expenses that you would not have had when you lease. Thanks for having me, and I hope this is going to help some people out there that are ready to take the plunge. And as well, there's a lot of support entities in this community to help you with that. I got some help from CFDC for my renovations. There's all kinds of stuff in this town for people to get help, and hopefully I've helped you too.
Hi, and welcome back to my office. I'd like to give you a tech tip. Claim your Google Pinhead. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is to go to Google Business, and on Google Business, what I want you to do is search for your own company. No matter if you rent your location, if you own your location, or if you built your location, you're on the Google map. And if you're not, you can create your Google Business. If you are and you haven't claimed it, it'll say in little writing underneath, are you the business owner? If you are the business owner, all you do is click on the little link, and then what you're able to do is click on that, and it'll say, would you like to claim it? And then what I have is a little video in the blog area of our website for BizMap Ptbo, where you can see exactly how to claim it. All you need to do is go in, and Google is going to send you a little code that you have to put into the map. Once you've claimed it, it's when the magic happens. You're able to enter your category of business. You're able to enter some photos that actually show your inside of your company, show the outside, show the products, show your staff. You really customize it to make sure it gives people who are looking for you the information you want them to have. Another thing it does is it gives you some really cool reports. It shows you exactly how many people looked for you on Google. It shows you exactly how many people called your phone number from that Google map. It shows you how many people looked for directions, and it tells you how they've been looking for you. So it's a fantastic little tool. So no matter if you rent, if you've bought, or if you've built, you need to claim your Google Pinhead.
I'm Bonnie Kubica. I own B Catering. We're downtown Peterborough at Charlotte and Park. Today I'll be speaking about how do you know when in your business you feel comfortable that you may want to expand or move. I started the business in 1998. I had a business partner. 7 years ago I bought her out, and at that point, a year later, my current landlord actually approached me to see if I wanted to expand and move the business. And at that time, I didn't feel like I was ready with just having bought my partner out. So he came back the next year, and I said, well, fine, I'll go and have a look. And it was a much larger space. And in the meantime, I had really changed and developed the business and felt that we were at the maximum that we could possibly produce out of that kitchen, and that we were either going to stay exactly where we were and struggling with older equipment that was getting older, or we take the big leap of faith, and if I could secure the financing, I said that we would go for it. So I did. I went to the CFDC, which is a Community Futures Development, which amazingly is right across the street from my new location, and did a proposal and went in and did all my marketing research. And it was really exciting developing the business plan because I'd actually never done that before. When we started the business in 1998, we just opened. We just like literally got the kitchen going and we just opened and cooked. That's what we did. It's been a complete whirlwind. It's been wonderful, the support of the community that we've had for B Catering. A lot of our plan was to develop the casserole and ready-made meal end of our business, and it has grown more than we expected, more than we predicted, which is totally exciting because I love that end of it. I love feeding families and making sure people get healthy food. That's all really primarily based on local ingredients, and then on top of that, developing the catering and having a whole new clientele that is coming in because of our increased visibility. So one of the reasons why I really love our new location is because we are really visible. People drive by every day, and there's lots of business clients that are all around there, so they come in for lunch. So we really built that that framework that we would be open for a light breakfast and lunch and coffee, and not open for dinner. And it's worked really well, and it's building every week, pretty much between 10 and 20% a week. So it's really good. Having a new space that is like 6 times as big as my old space, there's a lot of things that were surprising, like the hydro is one. That's a big one. And the amount of cleaning, like the amount of just labor sort of behind the scenes that is, part of overhead. One of the ways that I found myself really considering the move was actually my landlord, Ed, and he really inspired me to look at the space and take the leap. And my partner, Simon, my personal life partner, is an architectural technologist, so we looked at the space and he was able to say, okay, this is doable, this is what we can do in there. And then from there, we got really excited, and I've always been a person that is not afraid to do things and take chances. And even though I would never do that with my business just blindly, but I knew my business well enough, and the fact that we had such consistent growth that I knew that we would be able to take this on and really do it together, Simon and I. And negotiating, a reasonable rent and things like that was helpful. But one thing that I did say to the landlord was I have to make sure that I can secure financing, because this is going to cost a lot of money to put 2 kitchens in and to make it look like we want to make it look, because I'm not doing this again. Like, that was it. I'm not just going to make it hodgepodge and then, maybe 5 years down the line go, oh, okay, well, maybe now we can do the tiling. So yeah, it was definitely when I went to the CFDC and when we developed the plan for the business, that's when I really envisioned it. And I'm really good at visualization and knowing. I've always had faith that what I'm doing, I know it will be successful because we work so hard at it and within it. We kind of allowed the space to be what it was going to be. Like, instead of just forcing it and saying, well, no, every night we're open till 8 p.m. It's like, okay, it's actually dead between 3 and 6 and nobody's coming in. And so, you really have to have that like sort of faith and just, okay, we're going to adjust the hours for now. And then that way that helps a little ease the payroll, it eases overhead, and then maybe work your way up after you get better known in that space. So it wasn't too hard of a decision, but mainly it was knowing that I had the financing to do it. Like, I got what I asked for, which was wonderful. Some of it was actually interest-free. And also, I used Peterborough Economic Development, and Elizabeth Telecki, when she was there, she really helped us help with the business plan and wording, because I'm not a business speaky person. It's not my background. My background's actually art and English. So I wanted it to be as professional as I could possibly have it. So she really helped me with that and to narrow it down, because we actually only had like a weekend to pull it together, because that was the deadline, and the landlord wanted an answer, and I was afraid he was going to rent it to somebody else because it was just such an amazing space. So yeah, we just did it. That's how we did it. So use people that know their area. For instance, we were just about to open, and the gas guy happened to come by because he was inspecting all the equipment getting installed. He said, well, your gas meter is nowhere near big enough to even run the pilot lights on your stoves. And I was like, what? Like, they've been working for months on our space and nobody said anything. And I almost, again, like fell on the floor. I'm like, he's like, it's not even gonna run. So I said, well, you have to find us a gas meter. And he said there was none in Ontario, which I said, well, that's preposterous. How can there be no larger gas meters in Ontario? But they did find me one after about a week of really serious stress. So they put that in, and then they said they would have to replace all the lines in February, which they did on a Friday. But so that was one surprise. I hope what I offered today was helpful. My only advice is to, pursue your dreams, be careful, but also be ambitious. Thank you.
My name is Gwyneth James. I'm a CPA and a partner in Cody and James CPAs, and I also do some consulting work under the name Silverthorn. And I am here to speak to you today on whether or not in your business you are better off to lease the property that you are using for your business, or if you should buy it, or maybe even build. And as you probably are going to expect, there's no single answer as to whether you should lease or buy. The decision really depends on your individual circumstances. It's nothing as simple as, oh, interest rates are low, I should buy. So the first topic is, what are the plans for your business? So if you were a small business that hasn't locked down the best location for your business, you want flexibility for your space and or for the funds that you happen to have. Or if you want to be in a high-end area where properties with themselves are pretty expensive, you're probably going to be leaning toward a lease. If you are a more mature business, there's no possibility that you're going to want to shift your location around. You're well established, you want to stay there long term, and or another reason is there's no leasing opportunities where you are, then you're going to want to buy or build. Next section is control. So if you are leasing, typically you have less control over the space. It belongs to someone else. There's only so much they're going to let you change. And that may not be a concern depending on the type of business you're in, but it also may be very much a concern. And also if you're leasing a space, but it's kind of more than you really needed and you really wanted to split it up and rent out part of it, you sometimes can't do that if you're leasing, but you could if you owned it. So on the owning, buying, or building section, you have more options as to how you can use that space, subject to, of course, city bylaws and permits, building permits and things like that. So what are some of the pros and cons of buying or building? So the property is going to build equity in your business, right? And you're going to be able to have that equity down the road that maybe you could leverage and use it to secure some other type of debt for your growing business. But having said that, if you are going to buy a building, you typically wouldn't put it in the same corporation or business as the one you run your operating business out of. Because, first of all, protection from creditors, which is always a key part, and also then when you want to maybe retire or sell that business, you could sell the business and hang on to the building. And if they're in separate corporations, that's a lot easier done. One of the cons to particularly building, it almost always costs more than leasing. And so that can have a real negative impact on your cash flow for your business, so you have to watch out for that. And frequently you have to pledge your personal assets, assets to guarantee the mortgages for a business building, because there sometimes isn't just enough equity and cash flows to really make the bank feel comfortable, so they're asking you to personally guarantee everything. So that's definitely a downside. 4 is your ongoing costs. So if you have a lease, your ongoing costs are fairly controlled. The repairs and maintenance are the landlord's problem. Any major ones outside of your space are their problem, not yours. You may end up with a landlord who's unreasonable and allows the building to get run down, and so that might not be a great thing. But typically the ongoing costs are a lower risk. There's a guaranteed cash impact on your business, so you don't have to worry about all sorts of surprises. But you do have to watch out at renewal that your lease rate doesn't suddenly go up. Last but not least, moving on. So if you're leasing and you decide you do want to close your business, move your business, expand your business, open it, whatever, you just move at the end of the lease. Easy. Or if you really run into problems and you need to actually break the lease, then you pay one fee and you're done. If you own that building, in the same situation, now you're stuck with listing the building, selling the building. Probably you will trigger some sort of a tax impact from that, like a capital gain, some recapture. And then, of course, it's if you manage to sell it, how long is that going to take? So you may have been ready to go, but then the building sits on the market for a while. So that's definitely a downside to that. That's a lot of information. As I say, I will have this on the BizMap Ptbo website down the road. Okay, thanks very much.
Welcome back. This episode of BizMap Ptbo was pretty exciting. We heard from specialists and we heard from business owners who shared with us when is the right time to build, to rent, or to buy your commercial space. See you next time here on BizMap Ptbo.